Wow, what a nice day today. I was up in Duchesne yesterday and it was in the 70s, upper 70s, and today will be in the upper 50s, but man, it's a nice day. This video that we did yesterday is on the Peralta Stones. If you haven't heard about those, you should watch this video. It's pretty cool. It's about a guy who found some stones near Apache Junction, Arizona, and these stones actually have maps on them, and shows where the cache site would be. So stay tuned and watch this video. I think you'll enjoy it a lot. We're here at the Mountain Home Lodge, which is owned by Greg Gardner, and this is Greg Gardner here.
Hi.
And we're interviewing Dan about the Peralta Stones and trying to find out exactly maybe some chronological events of what happened with those Peralta Stones. And if anybody doesn't know about them, we can show you where they can read in your blog about them. And they're pretty cool. Anyway, so the Peralta Stones, we don't know, well, I guess, when were the Peralta Stones made?
Well, if you assume they were made by the date that's on them, it'd be 1847.
Okay. And so, where were they found?
I'm not sure. Did we make a note of that?
No.
1949.
1949 is when they were found, and there's actually, the stone itself had a hole in it, which actually was a heart shaped, and then there was another stone that fit into it.
Right.
And if I
We'll
remember,
show photos.
Okay. But these two stones, when they were found way separate apart of each other.
I don't recall.
We'll have to. Okay.
But the one stone had a heart-shaped hole cut in it, right?
Right.
And then he found the heart-shaped rock that fit right in that hole.
Exactly. And I just was under the impression that they weren't laying next to each other. They were found yards or something apart. We'll have to.
That's been too long for me.
We'll have to read your blog again.
Actually, I don't think I say so.
Okay, is there anything linking? We call it the Peralta Stones, but there's nothing on the Peralta Stone that says that it belonged to the Peralta family.
No, and I could be missing something, but I think the only reason that they're called the Peralta Stones is because they were found and the area is assumed to be in the Peralta land grant area, which was millions of acres. I mean, it went all the way from Phoenix clear over to New Mexico.
In talking about that, a lot of people think that the Peralta Stones are related to the Superstition Mountains from Arizona.
Yeah.
But if you look at the drainages that come off their stones, where would you think that would be more local?
The picture that we're going to have you put up
right here. Here
shows the Peralta Stone with two rivers. We're presuming they're rivers. I I have no reason to believe that they are not renditions of rivers. But if you look at them side by side with a 30-minute map with the three primary rivers highlighted, you have the upper river, which is Salt Creek. You have the middle river, which is Queens Creek, and the lowest one is the Gila River. Now you compare those and you tell me which two rivers are being portrayed on the Peralta Stones. And I don't think anybody that's looking at this is going to choose Salt Creek. You see how...
Because it's jagged.
Oh, it's all over the place.
Right.
And if that's the creek that they meant to put on the stone, then why wouldn't they give it somewhat of a resemblance? But look how smooth Queens Creek is, and how it fits beautifully with the stones, and the same with the Gila River.
Right.
So the point being is, I don't know where they come up with this whole idea that the Peralta Stones, or the heart that's in the Peralta Stone Map, is somehow in the Superstition Mountains. My opinion is they're a whole mountain range off.
And that's why we bring it down into Arizona.
That's what?
That's why we think it's the rivers, the Gila River and the...
Yes, I think the two
Arizona.
rivers that are portrayed on the Peralta Stones is the upper one is the Queens Creek, and the lower one is the Gila River. Now, if you just go look up the mountain range there, you'll have a whole new theory born.
Were you going to say something?
Yeah, I'm not real familiar with the Peralta Stone story. Can you just back up, and maybe you're going to get to that, but tell where did the Peralta Stones come from? How did they come about?
Okay, part of that we're going to get into, but I hear what he's saying. The Peralta Stones first came about when some guy, I don't know what his name was, driving down the road by Apache Junction, and I don't know, maybe he got out to water a sagebrush or something, who knows, and supposedly found these stones laying off the side of the road.
Which was in 1946.
1949.
1949. Yes, you're right.
Apparently a search ended up with the now known stones. I think there's 1, 2, 3, might have to go look it up.
I think there's 4.
But I think there's 4 stones. But and anyway, after the stones were found, that's when the theory started flying, and their theory was the stones were found at the beginning of the trail that's on the Peralta Stone Map.
So
If you look at it,
one of the stones has a map.
yes,
It
it has
map on it.
a dot line, dot line, dot line, dot line. You follow it all the way, it leads you to the center of the heart, and there's really nothing that indicates what's there, but it's quite clear that that's what it's directing you
I think
towards.
the heart means a king's mine. Is that what it might be indicating?
Could.
Generally, yes. It belongs to the king's area, if you will. And if it had something to do with the Peralta land grant or the claims, then my guess would be that this area was considered belonging to the king.
Could you also assume that the dots with the lines, that would be a high Spanish, what do you call it? Spanish trail?
I read something about that
King's Trail,
fairly recently, and I can't remember what it was, can't remember where I read it, but what I derived at is each of those dots, there should be something, a marker or something of significance. And you can literally follow that trail by doing an overlay, either using a 30-minute map or even on Google Earth, if you know where the canyons are, the best paths to go up and over from one canyon to the next, which I've already done. Have we answered all of the question? We're going to get more into it in a little bit as to where those stones may have come from.
So so they were just found on the side of the road
Yeah,
in 1949.
yes.
And he may have had to search around a little bit to find out, gather up all four of them.
Yeah.
That's what.
I remember reading one theory that, maybe some Spanish, a Spanish train of some sort passed through there, and they laid out their, they might as well have said it. It was kind of stupid. Laid out their bedding and they slept on top of it and then forgot to pick them up.
That would
Well, if you're laying on rocks all night, you're going to forget to pick them up. I don't know. It's just some of the theories are ridiculous, but what I never bought into is that I don't believe the stones were found where the trail begins. I believe the stones were found where the trail ends. In other words, he didn't need them anymore and discarded them.
because he's pretty certain whoever found them, they found what they're.
Well, I believe the location on the heart stone is something different than what everybody else thinks as far as the Superstition Mountains. I don't think it has anything to do with the Superstition Mountains. And if you've heard a lot of these stories about the Peralta Stones, you'll hear where they drag into the story the Lost Dutchman. How does the Lost Dutchman tie into these stones, even in the slightest?
Well, when we talked about the Peralta land grants, we haven't talked about that yet, but it says it went from Phoenix all the way to Caballo.
All the way over just short of the Caballos Mountains.
And that stands for a horse, right? Which is actually what's on the Peralta Stones.
Yeah.
So that's probably a way we could link them together if you wanted to take a little stretch.
If I had to guess, I would say that the stones, which they have come to call the Peralta Stones, are probably from the Peralta family. There just isn't anything on them that really says so.
Right. There's no name on it?
No.
So let's talk about the Peralta land grant.
Okay.
It was before they were granted land when it was still owned by
back in the 1700s.
It was still owned by Mexico. And when the United States came through and declared that this is now the United States, there was a certain amount of trials going on for the people that owned Mexican land.
Yes.
To keep their land. But from what I understand, none of those were approved.
They weren't, and I would tend to believe that the Peraltas lost claim to their land grant by other means of settling debts or whatever. But I don't think it had anything to do with James Rivas, who came about in I think it started in 1880 something. 1882, and he started filing claims on millions of acres of land based upon his claim to the Peralta claim through the woman that he married, who was supposedly a Peralta. And I think the Peraltas had lost or bartered away or bargained away their land grant long before that. So I really don't know that it had anything to do with the stones itself or the location.
But more in the fact that it came from first-hand information from his wife through the Peralta family.
Supposedly, yeah. And I've kind of backed off on that. If you visit my blog site, toscoro.com, I have an article on the Peralta Stones. The part about James Rivas and possibly being involved with those Peralta stones somehow, I just need to go and remove it and revise it or something, because the dates aren't right. In my mind, I had it switched.
Right.
So I'm just letting you know there's a mistake in there.
So before Rivas, there was a person, Raymert.
James de Noon Raymert.
Now, how is he all mixed up in this?
Well, what year did James de Noon Raymert land in San Francisco? It was We should have a note there.
1848 or 46 or 1847. No.
No, it was after the,
Okay,
long
so
after. It's
he
like
started doing some
1880
claims.
something.
He did some claims in 1876.
Okay, that's right, 1876. Okay, so let me tell you the story about this guy. And the reason that I researched this guy out is after taking a look at the Peralta stones, I could clearly see that the current theories about this whole map area being in the Superstition Mountains, I could see was wrong.
Right.
I knew it was. So I ended up switching to the proper two drainages, did some overlays, blazed the trail up and over the mountains, actually went in and marked where the actual canyons are, the passes, the trails, etc. And it fit beautifully. And there's only one place it could possibly be where it ended up. And when I pulled up the USGS map of that area, it said Raymert Mines. And so I thought, what
a coincidence.
So I thought, maybe I need to investigate this Raymert guy because this might have something to do with the Peralta stones.
Right.
I mean, it ended right smack dab on his mines.
Where are those?
The Raymert Mines is a guy in, okay, let's go to James de Noon Raymert. He was born, I want to say, in Holland. His mother was a Sinclair, by the way, which I thought was kind of interesting, and they actually lived in Scotland for a while. Well, he ended up coming to the United States to take a whack at the American dream, I guess, and he ended up in politics, strangely enough, and a lawyer. I can't remember which state it was. It was up in the Northeast. I think it was Wisconsin. And practiced law up there for a while. He was in politics. Eventually, I think he developed some health issues. His doctors suggested that he move down to Chile for a better climate to help him with his illness. And he ended up going down to Chile in the Bio area of Mulchen, Chile.
Mulchen, Chile.
And so I thought I'd go check all this out and find out, why down there? Got some kind of connection with the Peraltas? And I didn't know what I was going to find, but I found out that that's the exact place, right there in the Bio River, is where the Peraltas have lived since the 1700s. They still live there to this day, numerous families. So when he went down to the Bio area where the Peraltas were living, is it possible in 3 years' time that he met someone with the Peralta family?
Yeah.
So after those 3 years, and what was the date? 1876?
1876 when he came back.
Roughly 1876, he comes back to the United States, but he doesn't go to Wisconsin or Michigan or wherever it was. He goes to San Francisco and immediately ends up going to, I'm not going to say it right, Pineal County, Arizona? Pineal, I don't know. But he heads straight for Arizona. And he sets up a mining company. Well,
He's never mined before.
Well, it turns out the Raymert mine is one of the largest silver strikes in Arizona.
Gee,
So-
yeah, how did he get that information?
How does a guy get that lucky? What do you do? Get off the boat in San Francisco and think, God, what am I going to do now?
He opened up a math balloon like that.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go. Yeah. I'm going to go to this Arizona. Never been there. I'm going to go there and I'm going to establish a mining company, and I'll have one of the biggest silver strikes in Arizona.
So
You and I both know that's not what happened. So what did he learn while he was in Chile? My guess would be that he ran into the Peralta family.
Learned about the land grants and exactly what that meant to them.
Probably learned about the land grants. I'm trying to figure out where the Peralta Stones might have come into this. Who discarded them?
Who made them?
Okay, let's assume.
So you never told me where his mines are.
Oh, well, I'd have to show the map, so let's do that. Let's put the map up if you haven't already. I'm going to say east of where the stones were found. There's really no landmark. There's Picket Post Mountain is
So
there.
the stones were found near Apache Junction.
Yes.
So east
The
of there,
mountain range you want
east of
is to
there
the east.
is the Superstition Mountains, isn't it?
No, they're kind of to the north.
Mm.
You'll see when we post the maps.
You have to picture it in your mind, imaginary right now.
Yeah,
It's
you,
right there.
you put it right over my head.
Right in front of your face.
Yeah. See, we have to sit here and talk knowing that we're going to have a map over our faces.
Yeah.
If only we knew when it happened, we could pull faces and anyway. So exactly where it's at, you'd have to see it on the map, okay?
So somewhere east of Apache Junction.
Yes, east and a little bit south, okay? You're in a different mountain range now from the Superstitions. And the starting of the trail is off of the Gila River. It goes up and over that mountain range. And where it would be easy access, it actually shows another arrow like an easier access to the whole place. That would take you into a pass not too far from where the stones were found and into the Queens Creek drainage area.
Which is pretty close to Phoenix.
Yeah, fairly.
North of Phoenix.
Anyway, so when I did my overlays and traced all this down, I'm sitting here looking at the Raymert mines and found out all this stuff about the Raymert mines. It was a silver strike and so forth. My personal opinion is while he was down in the Bio area in Mulchin, Chile, he met the Peralta family. The Peralta family probably got to know him quite well, and they talked about their claims there and various silver sites and gold sites and things that they had to abandon for whatever reason.
Queens Creek.
I would
south
bet-
of Phoenix.
Okay.
I would bet
Southeast.
that one of the Peraltas is responsible. I've actually got a KMZ file for it.
He was just saying that Queens Creek's actually south of Phoenix.
Southeast of Phoenix.
Well,
I said it was north of Phoenix. It's
Queens Creek.
Creek is southeast of Phoenix.
yes,
I was thinking of Cave Creek. Cave Creek's north.
yeah. I'm talking about where the stones were found to the center, to my theory on where the center of the heart is, would be to the east and a little bit south. Okay. I should have sent you the KMZ file. It makes it a lot easier to.
Yeah.
But anyway, where were we? Oh, I think that the Peraltas gave him those stones, and he brought them back with him because they had the map. I
He
don't
said
think.
he was a lawyer and didn't know how to do anything, right?
Well, I don't think the Peraltas shared some of their other possibilities that extend all the way over to the Caballos Mountains. But maybe so, because if you look on those maps, you have a horse on there and it says Caballos, and I kind of think it might be a second map that has nothing to do with the other map. Anyway,
It's interesting. There's a Peralta trailhead
imagine that.
on the map today.
I think the stones were found where James de Noon Raymert threw them after he didn't need them anymore.
True. That's a good theory.
So he brought them up from Chile.
Yeah, I think he's the one that discarded them. And I think the place that the Peraltas were trying to direct him to was one of their richest silver mines. And I'll bet if it were possible to go back and look into James de Noon Raymart's financial records, you might find some payments going to some people down in Chile.
Some kickback, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think they made an agreement. So
That would be a logical
there you have it.
assumption.
Well, it's a lot better than the one that they've got being published now.
And so we have him establishing that in 1876. Then we have 6 years later, we have James
Rivas, who steps forward and claims
lots of land.
Yes, he claims that he gained rights to this Peralta claim
From his
wife, whom I'm sure he married out of convenience of fomenting this plot. Maybe there was validity to what he was doing.
Because by this time, the land trials were over.
Well, the
Long
date
ago.
in which you could establish your claims was coming up. And if you didn't get it established by that date, I think it was, it said something about 1948. And so the rumor is that they dated the Stones 1947 or 1847 to establish their legitimate claim to be established before they could no longer do that. And there was a lot of other things that they claimed, like the Peralta Stones. They had those made up just, to foment their plot. And it doesn't make any sense. It's actually quite stupid. So it leads me to believe that James Rivas might have actually had a legitimate claim, but when you've got the whole system fighting against you, you're going to go down, and he did.
We did this once before and messed up all our dates.
He did it. Where it's at, you can tell by looking at the maps. I mean, you can go on Google Earth and type in Raymart Mines, and it'll take you right to
Apparently,
it.
you can type in Peralta Trailhead and you can get right to it too.
Yeah, how far from?
The trailhead for the Stones is right there on Google Maps.
Oh, yeah, and I'll bet I know why they did that, and it's because of the theory that the stones were found at the beginning of the trail,
That's why it
and
says
they're
trailhead.
leading up into the Superstition Mountains, so they're calling it the Peralta Trail.
That makes sense.
And I don't think that's the case at all. Well, now, if you look how many mines there are, I mean, the guy had a town going up there. And how do you get that lucky? Well, we're back in the United States. What should we do, hon? Hey, how about we go to Pinole County or whatever it's called and, establish one of the largest silver strikes in Arizona? God, what a lucky guy.
Well, we don't know if he was married or not, do we?
No.
We just know he went to Chile and then came back.
And sometimes I think I need to investigate his wife too. What's her connection? His mom was a Sinclair.
Okay, Dan, I'd like to thank you for sharing your information on the Peralta Stones. It sure makes me understand a little bit better. I'm sure Greg got a little bit
I learned a
better.
lot.
Si bueno.
And if you want to, go ahead and plug your
Bad shoulder.
where were we? Mountain Home Lodge.
Mountain Home Lodge.
I keep wanting to say Moon Lake.
So yeah, we have. This is the Mountain Home Lodge here in Mountain Home, Utah, just right below the Uinta Mountains, Moon Lake, Yellowstone Canyon, Rock Creek. It's all right here. We have some rooms here we rent out. So if you need a place to stay while you're up here, you can stay here.
What's the average price about someone could think of?
$100 to $200. We also have the Moon Lake Resort with 15 cabins we rent out in the summer. So we're closed at both places right now, except the rooms are open, but here at Mountain Home.
Yeah.
But the store we close in the winter because there's just not enough.
When might that open?
May 15th this year.
Is that Mother's Day?
It's just, I think it's the week before Memorial Day weekend.
Okay.
And then the resort at Moon Lake will be open on Memorial Day weekend.
Okay. We also have a missing individual that came from Finland on the 5th, March 5th, and we were up here on the 11th, and his parents actually came to look for him, and they stayed for a couple weeks and left.
They were only here for 4 days. The news always said they were here for 2 weeks, but yeah, they contacted us shortly after he arrived. His parents got a email or something, a credit card receipt from his. He flew to Salt Lake, jumped in a taxi, and they saw a $500 taxi bill, and the taxi driver dropped him off at Moon Lake. And he hasn't been seen since.
So the taxi driver's the last person to see him after he paid a $500 bill to get taxied here.
Yeah.
And the Finnish government actually said that he had a phone ping in Tabiona somewhere, but that didn't lead anything either, did it?
No, they had the ping from the taxi driver where he dropped him off, and then a ping from just down here in Talmadge.
Oh, Talmadge, sorry.
Talmadge, yeah. And I stopped. I don't know if the sheriff did, but I stopped and talked to the folks there. And it's just an old couple. They didn't know anything about it. They didn't know he was missing. They hadn't seen him. The sheriff apparently tracked down the detective tracked down the cab driver. I don't know what was said. They couldn't tell me,
But you actually took his parents to the lodge
when they arrived, on the 11th.
On the 11th, I think.
You guys were here we were here having another meeting.
Yeah.
And I had to go up, and I took the parents up to search the area, because we thought, well, if anybody's coming from Finland and they get here and get dropped off at Moon Lake, they're going to see that we're closed, that the campground's closed, that there's 2 feet of snow, and they're just going to turn around and go. And his parents showed up that morning. He's like, oh, he's one of them crazy. Well, they didn't say that. They said he's a treasure hunter. And I said, oh, yeah. I know those guys. He probably could be up there. So we went up and looked at all the cabins, looked for tracks, but there'd been a foot of snow fall
since he got dropped off.
And
then between today and then he probably had 3 or 4 more snowstorms as well.
Mm-hmm.
And still no sign of him.
Yeah. So I've been up there several times. We'd go out and check and look around. And then a friend, Dave Shoup, and I went up, hiked up there to where another friend of ours doused his location. And we hiked up there, and he wasn't there. So apparently the search and rescues searched the north end of the lake, where his parents said that when he left, they went and looked at his laptop, and it was open to Google Earth with the north end of Moon Lake showing. Okay. So the search and rescue's been up there. But there's been people claim they've sighted him in Vernal. Just the other day they claimed they sighted him in Salt Lake, but none verified.
Sure. Here's an image of Earth.
I think they dropped him off up there, and he's still up there. He's probably not alive anymore.
So if someone does have information, do you have there's someone they can contact that you know about, the detective, or could they contact you and you can get a hold of the detective? Or
they can contact me. I can't remember the detective's name, but he's been
Crowley,
yeah.
Crowley.
Detective Crowley with the Vernal
Sheriff's Police
Isn't
Department.
he with the county?
County, maybe
Duchesne County
The Sheriff's Office?
Yeah.
Okay.
Detective Crowley.
Yeah, that's right.
So give your information out, get a hold of you, like your email address and all that. So people on
mail at moonlakeresort.com for Moon Lake, and mail at mountainhomelodgeutah.com.
So if they want to reserve a cabin or a room here, they can get a hold of you. And
yeah, they can go to those websites
cool.
and book it right on there, just like a hotel. We have boats and watercraft and all kinds of fun stuff up there.
It would be
all kinds of ways to disappear.
Someone's going to be hiking up next year to find them,
Yeah.
That's going to be the scary part.
Yeah.
Well, I would hope that you find him walking down out of the mountains with a beard down to here.
And a big bag of gold, right?
Yeah.
Well, thanks for letting us use your lodge
Yeah, you're welcome.
and do these interviews and stories.
Yeah, anytime.
It's a
I'm
nice
sure we'll do
place.
some more here.
Okay, say it.